Hey YouTube, this is the Death Scouter, and today we're going to be changing out an alternator on a 2013 Jeep Wrangler JK with the 3.6 liter Pentastar engine. Alright, first thing we're going to do is just reach in under the hood and pop off your engine cover. That serves no purpose other than to be decorative. And you're going to see that this is the alternator here on top of the engine. This is going to be a pretty fast repair, so we're going to blast through this pretty quickly. I'm going to start off with an 8mm socket to loosen up this clamp, and then 10mm to take off these brackets here, and we're going to go ahead and get this air hose assembly out of the way so that we can get access down to the front of where the alternator is to pull that off. So once we've taken off the engine shroud and we've taken off this air hose assembly, and note that there is a air sensor of some sort wired into the bottom of this. There's no need to unplug it, just put this off to the side. Take a look down this piece of pipe that's actually over top of my breaker bar. You'll see that the 1/2-inch ratchet head fits perfectly into this arm that's part of the tensioner. Now, unlike other vehicles where the tensioner is simply spring-loaded, on these JKs, on the bottom side, down there, you're going to see a little hydraulic cylinder. So when you put your breaker bar, and you are going to need a breaker bar. There's no way you're going to do this with a little 8-inch handheld ratchet handle. A breaker bar, I put a piece of pipe on there for added leverage. You need to press, this way towards the driver's side gently to allow that fluid to compress out of that little hydraulic piston. And once that's out, go ahead and move it back and forth, Joe, so we can see how much slack comes out of it. You'll see that it's no great amount of slack that you're going to get. Okay, it's going to be just enough to reach down here and slip some slack off of this bell housing. And then you can pull up on it and get the belt off of the alternator. Alright? So now that that's done, go ahead and you can let off on that pipe. Alright? So a couple of things to note when you do repairs on an alternator. There's a couple of wiring connections. And this wire's straight back to the battery. So proper procedures, if you're doing this, is to disconnect the hot lead off the battery, because if you disconnect this and it shorts to any piece of metal, it's going to arc weld. I'm not going to do that because I am impatient and lazy. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this thing off using a 13mm socket, and then we are just going to take our time and make sure that we don't short that to anything metal. Alright, so let's do this. Let's go ahead and get this off. Okay, so we've got the tension off the arm. We've got everything out of the way. Let's go ahead and start loosening up the electrical connections. Okay. Now is also a good time, if you've already gone out and purchased your new alternator. Boy, that's hot. I'm working on a hot car. Going out to purchase a new alternator, that you take a look and make sure that all the wiring connections are in the same spot. Make sure you don't have some aftermarket thing. And here you notice that we're just going to go ahead and make sure that that doesn't contact anything else here on the vehicle. Alright, so now what remains, as you can see here by examining the new alternator, are the 4 mounting bolts that hold this thing in. Now, I don't know what genius at Chrysler dreamed this up, but these are not the same size bolts or nuts. So for the top half, we're going to be using a 15mm, and for the bottom half, we're going to be using a 13mm. So let's go ahead. I happen to have broken them loose already with my breaker bar, and I'll go ahead and start taking these out, and then I'll switch over to the 15mm and take all these out. And with this serpentine belt disconnected already, this will just fall right off. Alright, so I'll start the video back up once I've taken the 4 mounting bolts out, and I've got the alternator. Okay, so took out the 4 bolts, went ahead and just set the new alternator in place. Putting the top bolts in now. Going to go ahead and tighten these down a little bit to hold it snug, and then I'll get the second set of bolts in. When everything's perfectly aligned, then I'll go ahead and tighten it all down, and we'll reconnect our electrical connections just like that. And you know what I'll do? I'll just go ahead and put this on here now so that we can stop worrying about this making contact with something that it shouldn't. And this repair will be over as fast as I can tighten up 4 bolts and then put this air hose assembly back on. I'll check back in with you in a few seconds. Okay, so we've put all 4 mounting bolts back on. I've tightened down the wiring connector here, plugged this other wiring connector back in, and now it's time for us to put the belts back on. So I've rerouted the belt here, and I'm going to take a look down in here and make sure the belt's going all the way around, everything as it's supposed to. We look like we're good. Alright, back off on it, Joey. Alright, we've got the slack out of it. Now, one of the things that we're going to do, go ahead and pull the belt, the pipe off. Okay, and we'll take out that. One of the things that we'll do after we've put everything back together, we could probably do it now, but now is probably a better time than any, is first of all do a visual check and make sure all the serpentine belts on all the pulleys evenly. And then we're going to crank the motor over and make sure that the belt tracks perfectly through all the pulleys and systems. So I'm going to do that, make sure that the belt doesn't go flying off into outer space. And if that's done, then it's simply a matter of putting this air hose assembly back on, and then the little decorative engine guard over the top. All in all, I'd say that this is a 15-minute repair. I will tell you that I got this part. It's $174 at Advanced Auto. I ordered it online, got a 25% discount. It took my part down to $140. I asked the local Jeep dealer what they would charge me to replace the alternator, and they gave me a $450 price tag. So 15 minutes, I literally saved myself $300. You can too. If you need anything else, hit me up on my Death Scouter channel. I try to monitor all my videos and replies and responses and get back to people as fast as I can. But this is the repair. I hope you guys liked it. Let's run through the parts again. 8mm socket, a 13mm socket, a 10mm socket, and let's see, 15, 13, 8. Yeah, here we go. 15, 13, 8, and 10. As well as a breaker bar and a piece of pipe in order to get the tension off. Alright, and this nut underneath here was also 13mm, so no strange parts just for that. Put all the covers back on, make sure everything's tight. Don't forget to clamp down on that locking tab. Thanks again for watching my video.